Okay, so let's get into this. When you hear psychopath, the picture that probably comes to mind is, well, maybe a movie villain, someone obviously dangerous.
Right, maybe someone already in the system, a criminal.
Exactly. But today's deep dive, it's based on this really interesting book by Vicente Garrido, Genovese, and Patricia Lopez Lucio. And it focuses on something maybe less obvious, the integrated psychopath.
That's a really key difference they draw out. The source suggests, maybe only 1% are those high-spectrum psychopaths we often think of,
Okay.
but potentially up to 5% of people could be somewhere on that spectrum. And this integrated type, well, they haven't been caught, legally speaking.
Or they still cause harm.
Oh, immense harm. Significant suffering in personal lives,
Yep.
workplaces, even society generally.
Right. So our goal here is to really dig into what this source tells us. Who are these individuals? How do they operate kind of under the surface? And I think most importantly for you listening, how can you spot them and maybe protect yourself?
And the book is a fascinating look at their basic way of being. It's really characterized by this intense, singular focus, egocentric thinking,
Man.
meaning it's only about what they want. Decisions aren't really based on, morals or ethics. It's pure strategy, what gets them their goal.
So it's not about right versus wrong. It's just effective versus ineffective for them.
Precisely. And emotionally, it's also quite distinct. They can show really intense negative emotions, anger, frustration, contempt. But those positive connecting emotions, things like genuine empathy, compassion, maybe guilt or conscience, they're described as really weak or even just absent.
That lack, that emotional gap, it must allow them to operate very differently, doesn't it? Without the usual checks and balances most people feel.
It does. It frees them up in a way. And this drive for control, for power, the book says that's central to them.
Okay, so if they have this unique internal setup, the self-focus, the lack of empathy, how do they manage to blend in so well? Why aren't they immediately obvious?
Yeah, that's a critical point the source makes. It can feel like they have some special ability to read you, right? But the book argues it's not magic, it's practice. Constant, relentless practice in manipulation and deception. They get really good at spotting vulnerabilities.
So it's a learned skill, honed over time, not some innate psychic power.
Exactly. They specialize in finding people they can influence and exploiting those openings strategically.
Okay, that makes sense. So based on that, what are the concrete things the book suggests you look out for? How can you actually start to, identify this in your own life?
Well, one sign is that feeling we just mentioned, like they're reading your mind. But the key is how they use that insight. Is it genuinely to support or understand you?
Or is it always somehow turned to their advantage?
That's the question to ask. Also, pay attention to how they react when other people are suffering. The source notes you'll rarely see genuine empathy or distress for the other person.
Right. Maybe performative concern, but not deep feeling.
Yes. And another thing is conversation depth. Try talking about your really deep feelings or worries. The book suggests the conversation often stays surprisingly superficial. They kind of deflect or can't engage on that level.
Okay. So those are specific flags. But how do you build a bigger picture? Because anyone can have an off day, right?
Absolutely. And the source stresses this. You need to look for patterns, consistent behavior across different situations and relationships. How do they treat you versus how they treat, say, colleagues or family? Look for those inconsistencies.
Between what they say and what they actually do over time.
Yes. And the book suggests asking probing questions sometimes about their sense of responsibility, about past actions, their values. See if even their helpful actions seem more like investments for their own future gain.
That's a really important perspective shift. Okay, so spotting them is one thing. But the source offers more than just detection, doesn't it? It talks about reframing things.
It really does. It suggests that while the psychopath might see the world as just predators and victims, you can choose a third way. The way of the protector. Protecting yourself, and maybe others too. This involves consciously checking if your relationships align with your core values.
And trusting your gut.
Trusting your gut. Yes, those feelings that something isn't quite right. But then, crucially, verifying that intuition with objective observation. Look at their consistent actions, not just their charm or words.
So it's about becoming more resilient. The book makes it sound like this is something you can learn.
Definitely. It suggests framing it as a challenge. You're the main character facing this influence, maybe finding allies, and working to neutralize the negative impact. It actually strengthens you.
So it's not about being scared. It's about being prepared. informed, empowered, really.
Exactly. The source uses this great image like being in the eye of a hurricane. Even with destructive forces around, you can consciously expand a space of peace, of your own values, through awareness and resilience.
That's a powerful way to think about it. So maybe the final thought to leave everyone with, drawing from the source, is this. You might encounter these potential hurricanes in life. How will you choose to navigate them? Not as a victim,
But as a protector, anchored by that awareness and your own firmly held values,